Welcome. This is Aaron Price, the CEO of TechUnited New Jersey. I am thrilled to have joined me today Ralph Izzo, the CEO of PSEG and Commissioner of the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, Dianne Solomon. Thank you both for joining me. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Aaron.
So today we're here to talk about CleanTech and the opportunity in New Jersey. We have, with TechUnited, established something called the CleanTech Alliance, and PSEG is a partner of this alliance. And one of the first activities and initiatives of this alliance is a program that's called an Impact Challenge, where we're looking to discover innovative ideas to help solve some of New Jersey's energy challenges. And so we wanted to talk today with Commissioner and Ralph about what they see as the opportunity in New Jersey, where clean tech can play a role, and how startups potentially might be part of that solution. So I'd like to start with you, Ralph, as what do you see as the opportunity for innovation in New Jersey, and why and how startups may potentially be a fit?
Well, thanks, Aaron, for having us here today. Well, New Jersey has long been a leader in path-breaking energy policy. And to the credit of the Commission, recently they've moved ahead on some standardization of their energy efficiency programs, which, of course, regulators and regulated don't always agree on everything, but at a high level, I think this is an extremely exciting opportunity for entrepreneurs and innovators, because it'll need the benefit of technology closer to the customer premise. So we're not asking people to invent a new nuclear reactor. We're not asking them to make tremendous advances in material sciences so wind turbines can be more efficient. We're asking them to come up with better artificial intelligence, better programming for thermostats, maybe even a better light bulb. But it's going to be focused at the customer end as opposed to the production end. And the assets in the home are just smaller assets. So I think that creates a great opportunity for innovation and technology on home energy management systems and things of that nature.
Yeah, we're really excited to see what kinds of technology the startup community might bring to the forefront. And some of it, as you said, it's not necessarily hardcore hardware technology, but there's enablement that might allow end users to have a better experience. So, Commissioner, some people are concerned about how this potentially may disrupt the workforce in New Jersey. And I was hoping you could shed some thoughts on how you see the opportunity for the workforce and energy equity as potentially some of this innovation comes into play around the region.
Yeah, thank you. Frankly, I don't see it as disruptive at all. I think it is a real opportunity for the workforce in New Jersey. As we produce energy more efficiently, cleanly, reliably, and economically, and make it available to a greater number of people, that will create more jobs for a greater number of individuals. And we have seen through our energy high school programs and the Wind Institute that's being developed, that there's going to be real opportunities in New Jersey and within the workforce. So I see it as a real opportunity for New Jersey.
Are there other regions that you look to where you believe that there's a model that we could potentially see some advantages and learn from as they've implemented innovative solutions in their energy ecosystem? Commissioner.
In terms of workforce development?
In terms of workforce development and in general with how ratepayers are affected?
Yeah, well, through our, this EE filing, we're going to have more opportunities for people to take advantage of our energy efficiency programs. Certainly, California, New York are the leaders within the country in terms of their programs and the services that they provide. And it'll be really interesting for us as we have created a new program to see what types of services and programs are developed within New Jersey to make energy efficiency available. I'm not going to speak to any specific programs or technologies, but there certainly are leaders out there from which we have drawn a number of our programs.
That makes sense, Ralph. There are three areas that we're focused on for this challenge. energy equity, energy efficiency, and the future of work, the workforce transformation. So what would you say you're looking for in those who think they are building the future of these industries, and specifically with clean energy? What are you looking for potentially in some of the founders and startups who apply?
Well, so we touched upon a little bit of that earlier, but I would like to spend a little more time on the information aspects that the entrepreneurs can bring to the table. Another area that, to the BPU and the Commissioner's credit, that the state is about to embark on is the potential for deployment of advanced metering. That became painfully obvious as a necessity just this past week, as we had outages across the state due to the most recent storm. And we as a company were quite hampered in knowing who was out and why they were out, and in the absence of advanced metering. With advanced metering, instead of reading meters once a month, one can read those meters with greater frequency every few minutes, every day. And that rich content of information would allow data scientists to create algorithms and programs that would advise customers on how to better use energy, whether or not some of their appliances in their home are highly inefficient and in need of being replaced or in need of being repaired. So I'm hoping that the entrepreneurial community can come up with these apps, if you will, whether they are controlled at the homeowner or given to the utility to perform some assessment. And the beauty of the combination of these two events that the BPU has put forward, the straw man on energy efficiency, and the encouragement AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, is that they've recognized that the places where this has been most successful has been when utilities have been actively involved, not exclusively involved, but actively involved, because there are segments of the population that often are ignored and not well served. And it wouldn't be a surprise to you. It tends to be lower income parts of the population, public entities, hospitals, folks with limited access to capital. So I'm looking for the entrepreneurial community to help us provide universal access to energy efficiency and better energy management.
I think it's worth highlighting that point, right? Maybe, Commissioner, you can share a bit for those, especially who may not be as informed with the relationship between the BPU and PSEG. And I'm particularly proud to have you both represented here, because our goal at TechUnited is to bring together this ecosystem to provide opportunity for companies big and small, which is exactly what this challenge aims to do. But I think it's important that people understand the BPU's role in this. So perhaps you can share a little bit more about how you think about how the startup community can participate, and in particular, how you hope it could help with the deployment and the partnership with PSEG.
Yeah, as regulators, we're our charge is to ensure safe, reliable service at reasonable rates. And what that means for the utilities is for us to give them the opportunity to have programs and, frankly, access to capital so that they can deploy these programs throughout the state. And that is our role. Sometimes there's a slight overlap between the Board of Public Utilities and the Department of Environmental Protection, which really has to do with air quality. But the utilities have a unique relationship with ratepayers, as Ralph was saying, to provide these services. And it is incumbent upon us as regulators to enable the utilities to take advantage of the technologies that are being developed for the betterment of the state. Ralph talked about in the technology area, but there's also industrial control systems in the security area, which is huge issue for us these days, especially in providing reliable service, and for solar to be able to measure and validate what the usage is on the system. These are all areas where innovators may not normally think that they can get involved, but are important in terms of providing reliable information both to the utilities and to the regulators, so we know how these programs are being utilized and what we should be allowing them to fund.
Yeah. As a quick program note, We have this streaming across a variety of platforms. I see we have a question on YouTube, and if you could just clarify what you're asking there. The question's about what programs are available in bringing storage to the state, which I think is too broad a question, but if you can clarify, I'm happy to bring that back up here. Ralph, are there programs, especially in regards to what's going on in the world right now, obviously major weather issues, but also the pandemic, are there certain solutions that you think that, if you could wave a magic wand and see something happen and unfold here that the startup community and innovators might help bring to life? Is there something that you think particularly would ease some pain for consumers? And I want to highlight again, as you did, especially with a nod towards energy equity and making sure that a solution that serves all residents of the state.
Yeah, without question, the number one would be energy efficiency. It is the one thing we can do where you can actually create jobs, you can reduce the impact on the environment, and you can lower customers' bills. And if done in ways other than replacing light bulbs or replacing programmable thermostats, but with the benefit of new products and services and information analysis that entrepreneurs can bring, I'm sure we would even amplify the amount of energy efficiency that can take place. And it's not fantasy or foo-foo dust. Basically, the premise is you're going to spend less money on fuel, whether that fuel is natural gas or coal or uranium-235, and you're going to spend more money on the workforce that's installing these devices. And those devices tend to be cheaper than the extraction of the fuel, the purchase of the fuel, and the conversion of the fuel. So if I could wave a magic wand, it would be orders of magnitude expansion in the investments we make in energy efficiency. And I think the potential for that is going to be even further improved with the installation of AMI. And the AMI technology is already available to us. So I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but candidly, despite my compliments of the many good things New Jersey has done, I think we're number 8 in the nation in solar energy installation. And New Jersey is a wonderful place, but we don't have much sun, and it's real expensive to build solar in New Jersey. We're about to be number 2. Well, we are number 2 in our stated aspirations for offshore wind. We do have a lot of offshore wind, but the technology is still in its infancy and very expensive. We're number 34 in the nation in energy efficiency. We've got a lot of opportunity, given the age of our housing stock, that we could make massive improvements in that regard. That's not a knock against solar or offshore wind. It is just a plea to get the entrepreneurial community behind the technologies that will make us an even more efficient user of energy.
We did get a follow-up that I'll pose to you in that question about storage, which is this person's pointed out that storage is of next generation units beyond lithium ion to supercapacitor based storage is taking California by storm, is the comment here. And I'm wondering if you have any commentary on if you think there's an opportunity for New Jersey in storage like this for us to have an opportunity.
Yes, the superconducting materials have long been talked about as a viable storage option. Basically, what happens is you can store energy usually in a magnetic field without having any resistive losses because the material is superconducting. Other topics nowadays relate to basically hydrolyzing water and storing energy in the form of hydrogen, which is a highly useful and clean fuel later on. There is no question that storage is going to be essential to our clean energy future. And here too, the state in its Clean Energy Act has a stated goal of 600 megawatts of storage by the end of the year 2021. And we've put a filing in front of the BPU in that regard. I don't want to go into detail because it wouldn't be fair to the commissioner. However, storage, like some of the other things we've talked about, is still quite expensive, which brings me back to energy efficiency. You don't need storage to do energy efficiency. So I do think it's an important technology. There are multiple possibilities for pursuing storage in the future, but it's going to be essential if we're going to make better use of renewable supply options.
We did have a storage pilot at one point. We actually, frankly, didn't get as much interest in that regard, but I agree with Ralph on both fronts. Energy efficiency we have not tapped into at a level that we should. I think the entire board is in a agreement there, and personally, that's where I'd like us to really give a good part of our focus, because that's where we're going to get the greatest bang for our buck, and that's our job as economic regulators to make sure that that happens. So.
Commissioner, can you share, so if you're an entrepreneur listening and you're working in something with energy efficiency, make sure you apply to this challenge. Commissioner, can you share any more on how the BPU have you worked with startups in the past? Any examples of working with the innovation community?
Right. We don't work directly with startups, but the most exciting part about my job is learning about emerging technology, and meeting with innovators and actually visiting projects in the development, demonstration, and near commercialization stages. For instance, there's the Rutgers, it's not the Rutgers Are You Cool Lab. I've been to carbon capture sites. Been to places where they're working on next generation heat pumps. In fact, the other day I actually attended, which in the pandemic stage is sort of unusual, a project with the Delaware River Port Authority and SunPower, and putting solar panels on carports that are going to operate the speed line from New Jersey to Philadelphia. And if you think about it, for years, the only way you could get across the Delaware was by boat, and then by car, and then by train. And now you're going to be getting across the river, in a big vehicle that's powered by the sun. So while we don't work directly with startups, as technology comes into commercialization and it's being adopted by the utilities, we are there to support it. Both nationally through NARUC, our national organization has a Center for Partnership and Innovation, and regionally at our Mid-Atlantic conference, our educational conference, we host an innovation lab. So that's an opportunity for innovators to talk and speak directly to regulators, both locally, regionally, and nationally.
Aaron, I don't want to get too dramatic, but I mean, we started out with candles, we went to gas lamps, and now we have electric light bulbs, right? I mean, we have engineers at PSEG who are designing substations that cost hundreds of millions of dollars using augmented reality and virtual reality, because it's just such a convenient way to be able to visualize how these facilities will eventually operate. So it's really probably presumptuous on my part to predict what the innovation might look like. But I will say this, that oftentimes these ideas don't come from the Fortune 50 companies that we think of as being technology giants. But what those Fortune 50 companies have told me when I've spoken to them about the potential partnership between the utility and them is they've realized, and they've said to me, that we are their best vehicle for providing universal access to these technologies, translation, improving their sales of their equipment. So for the tech community listening, this is more than just a five-figure challenge to develop something. This is an opportunity to develop something that can get widely deployed among millions of customers in New Jersey. And if there's one thing that's true about the power industry is that we do learn from each other. So what is successful in New Jersey would undoubtedly be deployed in other parts of the country and conceivably other parts of the world. So it really is a great opportunity to have a significant impact on the population by helping them lower their bills, cleaning the environment, and putting people to work and installing whatever device you come up with.
And I think that's such a critical point that you just made, because most startups begin with the idea of making a difference in the world and frankly, profiting along the way in some capacity. And what you just outlined is, here is an opportunity. Here's a road to do both. Here's a road to actually make a significant impact in people's lives. And because of this network, you probably could build your company pretty rapidly if you have an effective product. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud about the ability to bring that to the table for the entrepreneurial community, especially here in New Jersey, because that's exactly the role that I'd like to see TechUnited play, and to know that we have the support and the interest of the BPU and obviously a major utility. I think this is a very unique opportunity for a startup to accelerate their business pretty dramatically. I want to talk a bit more about the workforce development and impact, because there are some nerves around what innovation broadly may mean for the workforce. And so, Ralph, I'll start with you, but for those who may be concerned, that does this mean that all of a sudden meter readers, for instance, are out of jobs. What do you see as the future for that workforce and for the workforce in general? Because I agree with you. I think that
understand that.
speaking of technology, my audio device heard me say something that triggered it. But sorry, the opportunity
Everywhere.
That's right, it's everywhere. Apparently not muted. They're listening.
So we have a philosophy at PSEG that we don't protect positions, we protect people. So if technology creates an opportunity to improve the service quality we deliver to customers or lower their bill or enhance their reliability, and a job type has to go away, we're fine with that. What we would do, though, is try to retrain that person or give them a graceful opportunity to do something different that they're already skilled at doing. So in the case of energy efficiency, for example, many of these jobs will require some retraining, but it's not the kind of retraining that will take months or years. It's the type of training that will take days and weeks, depending on the nature of the job. Obviously, installing a highly efficient air conditioning system is going to take longer to train somebody than to install a thermostat or some light bulbs. And candidly, if you look at the effects of COVID-19, some of the major impacts in terms of jobs have been in restaurants, leisure, some jobs that people might be more than eligible for retraining and employment opportunities in a new energy efficiency world. And I would argue that the energy efficiency world has a long-term future. It's not going to be short-lived. So we've started talking to some workforce training entities, the state of New Jersey Department of Labor, various other not-for-profit workforce training groups. And we think we can create indirectly 5,000 jobs and 2,000 jobs alone with this one energy efficiency set of programs that we've suggested. And again, it will vary in skill ranges, but the amount of training is such that we could deploy those people fairly rapidly.
Commissioner, I'm curious if you have any thoughts as well as the impact of the workforce. I know you're concerned about in general, not just energy efficiency and the ratepayer, but the impact on the community at large. And I'm curious of your thoughts on how a workforce smoothly transitions through innovation.
Yeah. Frankly, workforce development has always been an issue for me since I got to the board and was aware of the issue primarily with an aging workforce. And regardless of what technology comes forward, we're still going to have to be able to keep the system up and running and operating. And so I always, when I go out to career days and speaking with young people, talk about the opportunities in the utility field. And that's been for as many years probably as the utility industry has been in business. They've always been excellent job opportunities, regardless of where the technology stands. And I can only see that improving as technological advancements come to the fore. And it's really important that in New Jersey, we not only get our labor force, but our educational institutions up and running to provide a workforce that has the background in terms of licensing and training to support these jobs. And we have to work really closely with our utility partners to make sure that the backbone in terms of the educational requirements that they will need from these individuals is provided. And I think that's some place where the commission could take a larger role in working to make sure that the opportunities that are going to be available in the future are communicated to the next generation. Generally when kids go to high school, they don't think, oh, I'm going to go work for a utility. But these are the jobs of the future. And it's a really interesting time to be involved into the utility space. And when you speak with young adults about those opportunities, they get excited, and it's something that we should play a bigger role in.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. By the way, Donna, I see your question here, although it's not really a question. So if you give us a little bit more to work off of, I'm happy to bring it to the group. Ralph, I've heard you say before something to the effect of people don't really think about the utility company until they go to plug in their device and it doesn't work. Or in this case, a major storm rolls through. But especially with the pandemic, the idea now that we're so reliant on power and connectivity to be productive in the economy, even more so, is so apparent. And so I wonder if the pandemic has changed any of your thinking or reinforced any thinking about the role of the utility in the community in general.
Hugely so. And I don't want to dominate the conversation, but clearly there are workforce implications about the efficiency of being able to work from home for many people. And the need for some people to work on the property has been amplified tremendously in ways that, quite candidly, I didn't appreciate. But this whole shift that many more people may be working from home. Look, in downtown Newark, we have multiple circuits at high voltage with tremendous redundancy to make sure that the office buildings in downtown Newark and the airport never have to worry about reliability. That's not the case in everybody's individual home. This last storm, it didn't test our high voltage system where we've spent a lot of money reinforcing it. It tested the wires going from the street to the house, because that's where the trees fell down and knocked out the cables. If people are going to be working from home a lot more, our system is not designed for that same degree of reliability to the home as it is to the commercial and industrial centers. It never was. So we'll have to rethink what that means from the point of view of, again, advanced metering, so we know when a homeowner is out. Because when they're out, it's no longer a matter of inconvenience. The computer systems are down, their communication technology might be down, their ability to do work is gone. So yes, if we're going to have a new normal with much more of a distributed workforce, and when I say we, I mean the economy at large, not just PSEG, then this electric system is not set up for broad-based resiliency at the individual homeowner location. More, and worse than that, at the present time, it doesn't even have the knowledge about the current condition at the individual homeowner. And that's going to make AMI not only important from an energy efficiency point of view, which we've talked about at great length so far, but from a basic reliability point of view.
It does look like that was starting to address the question that Donna had. And I think this ties into the broader opportunity here, right? I imagine you're getting, potentially some angry emails of people who are frustrated. And I wonder if perhaps, maybe they're not aware of the infrastructure as it sits today. You're not yet. Ralph, if you could just shed a little bit of light on, what it might, a consumer sees a down line and their power outage, but is PSEG aware, and how does that process work? Because I think there's a technology and an entrepreneurial opportunity to solve some of this. I want to highlight the reality here a bit.
Yeah, so we're aware when our substations go down. We're aware when some of our high voltage lines go down. But if a line into a house goes down, we have no idea. So typically what will happen in a major storm like this is we're aware of a circuit that's got 5,000 customers on it, and there's been some major damage. We send a crew out to restore that circuit. We leave, we go to the next circuit. There may be 500 homes on that circuit that had problems from the circuit to their house. We have no idea about that. So we'll actually tell customers, we think your service has been restored. We're not sure, because you may be one of these other homes that has a problem. We don't know if there's 4,999 of you that have that problem, or if there's one of you that have that problem. This leads to tremendous customer confusion. We literally have talented people, not our skilled craftspeople, making phone calls to customers saying, excuse me, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Smith, do you have power? They're aghast. Like, aren't you the power company? Don't you know? And our answer is, well, candidly, we don't. We know the circuit in front of your house has power in it, but we have no idea if you have power. And nowadays, you're calling people on cell phones. So you really have no way of knowing if they have power or not. So that degree of lack of sophistication in our system. And here, look, New Jersey does many wonderful things. Here we've been a little bit trailing in terms of our deployment of this technology. And that's going to be a huge improvement in customer service in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically, startups that are thinking about solving that problem, that is a big, expensive problem that the community has to deal with.
That's exactly right. So just getting that information and grouping it in a way that gives us intelligence about where to dispatch crews and whether or not to leave a crew there because they've restored the circuit in the street, but there's enough homes whose driveways have trees down is incredibly helpful. And then, of course, predictively, are there power quality issues? Are there momentary interruptions that suggest perhaps a decline in the infrastructure going to the home. In telephony, people refer to this as the last mile. We've never had to confront that in the utility industry because most of the emphasis was on 2003 when a transmission line went out in Ohio and all the lights went out in New York and part of New Jersey. But now the reality is, with a much more distributed workforce, with people being so dependent upon their electricity at home, we're going to have to think about this.
Commissioner, I wonder what your thoughts are in regards to the same topic about the lack of efficiency in getting to the actual home.
Yeah, over the past number of years, if going back to Irene, and we had the derecho and Superstorm Sandy, there were a number, whether it be rain or wind, different types of storms create different kinds of problems. One was a rain event, and we had the flooding of the substations where post Sandy, we allowed the utilities to come in and raise a number of those substations. And you have your wind event like we had the other day, which, as Ralph mentioned, more greatly affects the distribution system. One of the areas that is really important that we found post Sandy also was that innovators may want to think about is in the communications area. There was a real lack of real-time information available to individuals. We found post-storm that all the utilities, came back in, revamped their websites, if you can believe it, didn't have that done that we now rely on in terms of outage maps, and communication is going to be key moving forward, regardless of what happens in the future. A number of people have also gone to more distributed forms of generation at their home. And, you may be seeing more of that. And we've talked about microgrids and spoken with the utilities about that, post-pandemic, with it being a more distributed setup, whether, there's going to be a need for more distributed type of technology for individuals and businesses in this new paradigm. So also an opportunity for innovators to take a look at both the communications and the distributed areas, I would think.
Yeah, I could sense the frustration from some people in the comments. When I want to be clear, that's why I'm excited about this partnership. We are looking to our new mantra with TechUnited New Jersey is to build a better future for all. This partnership with PSEG, with the support of the commissioner and a variety of other organizations, is positioned to do exactly that, so that these kinds of things we can try to solve as a collective, that we can unite the community to look for solutions among us, not necessarily just as dictated from the BPU or PSEG, but that we could come together to look for innovative solutions to actually improve this issue that clearly is causing a lot of frustration. Jeff asked, go ahead.
I think that, Ralph mentioned earlier, making a better app, in all seriousness, that, you should be able to go around, take a picture of a down wire, send it to the utility, and be able to have that availability to get that last mile, which is the hardest part right now because of the lack of AMI on the system, to do that. We do have an AMI pilot within one of our service territories. We'll be interested to evaluate to see how the AMI in the Rockland territory reacted during the storm, and how efficient it was in getting them to further restore power. So, I'm going to be looking forward to that. But certainly in the app area, I think there's lots of opportunities. I'd love to see that.
I think that's what's so exciting about this program in general, is that there are quite a few pain points, as the startup community often thinks of these issues, which often means there's an opportunity to make something more efficient. And in this case, that efficiency will actually reduce someone's energy bill directly. And I think when we talk about energy equity in the future of work and energy efficiency, these are goals that someone can do well by doing good. And again, that's why I'm so pleased about bringing this to the forefront. Jeff from Twitter was asking about, or highlighting, it seems as if there's a focus on either the end user the home use, the residential customer, or big business. And he was wondering about those in between, especially small and medium businesses. Ralph, I was wondering if you could comment there about the interest there in the small and medium business customer.
Yeah, I think that most of what I've said for the residential customer would apply to the small and medium-sized customer. Now, if that's a small and medium-sized business and they're part of a major mall, then they're probably getting the kind of infrastructure support that we would apply to some of the bigger users I mentioned before. But if they're a small business in a local community providing some retail service or some professional service, they're probably getting the same level of reliability that a residential customer is getting. And today that's not enough, and tomorrow that's certainly not going to be enough. So we have to do better there. So I apologize. I didn't mean to leave anyone out. All customers are important to us, but in general, unless you're either in a downtown area or part of a major user community like the airport or something of that nature, you're probably getting a fairly standard baseline degree of reliability.
I think one of the areas for the small and medium businesses, and one that I think we had fallen short of, and which Ralph mentioned, it's in the marketing area to make them aware of the programs and ways that we can assist them in the energy efficiency field. While we had some energy, wonderful programs, there's not always that communication and marketing that has reached those communities. And I think that with this new energy efficiency program that we will be rolling out, I'm going to be excited to see how we reach those smaller and medium-sized businesses and make them more aware of the programs that are available to them. I think there's just really a lack of knowledge, not that they don't have the ability to take advantage of the programs, they just don't know about them. I can't tell you how many times I have gone and met with individuals who were not aware of the scope of opportunities available to them. So hopefully that will be corrected in the future.
With that in mind, is there anything you want to remind people of now that they may not be taking advantage of?
Well, we're going to be, I would say, wait until we, complete this filing, and then I'm sure there'll be a, big explosion of information that'll be coming out as to the programs that are available. They can always go to our website, but I would say once we complete these filings and then the utilities have a chance to make their filings and get up and running, I think that's where you're going to see the explosion of opportunities available. Ralph, you agree?
Yeah, I do. I was going to say once we're given the go sign, we'll be moving pretty quickly. So that there won't be any shortage of communication at that point.
I'm sure Ralph is eager to see the results of this filing. So I don't want to push this too far, but Commissioner, it does seem like there's a real opportunity in front of us to push some of these issues. Would you agree that with some of the things that are proposed here, we can drive some of the investment in this category and in innovation?
Without question, with a new programs suite, there'll be lots of opportunity. And, sometimes as regulators, we get in the way, and other times, we really can make it easier to move things forward. Even in this pandemic, it's been shown, at the federal level, when we want to move quickly, regulators, can cut through the red tape and get things done. So, that would be certainly my interest.
Yeah, I think we're all eager to see, again, with this idea of how we can work together. I think we're all hopeful that there's just a lot of opportunity ahead for how the innovation community can participate. I was wondering if either of you could share some examples of how innovation has transformed the energy ecosystem or industry to date, and in any way, but just to highlight some examples of how innovation has advanced the industry in the past. I'll start with you, Ralph.
Oh my gosh, the list is endless, right? But just in terms of some of the remote terminal units we have on the high voltage system, and our ability to see whether or not certain lines are becoming overloaded, and then to use something we call phase angle regulators to redirect the flows so that the power can continue to get to a substation and serve a local constituency without overstressing the high voltage system. And just think of power plants. I mean, once upon a time, to produce a kilowatt hour of electricity, you needed to burn 15,000 BTUs of some fuel, and now you can produce that same kilowatt hour and just consume 6,000 BTUs of fuel. So I know we all see the poles in the street, and they look like they were put there by Thomas Edison, and in fact, some of them probably were put there by Thomas Edison. But there's been a lot of innovation up and down the value chain in terms of the power sector. I would say, though, that the innovation has emphasized more what I'll call the upstream part, right? Because that's where the capital investment was the greatest. So the innovations at the power plants exceed the innovations at the transmission system, which exceed the innovation at the substation, which exceed the innovation at the distribution system, which exceeds the innovation at the customer home. And I think we need to now kind of reverse the priority and put more of that innovation at the customer home.
Yeah. And in other news, for those interested, we'll be auctioning off a telephone pole installed by Thomas Edison shortly after this broadcast.
Oh, I wish I should take that. I have my office is decorated in utility memorabilia. So, I'm not allowed to accept anything of value. So, yeah.
Commissioner, the same question to you. I want to highlight, Ralph is talking about some very, hardcore technology advancements. We had someone on LinkedIn talk about how data analytics is certainly a welcome opportunity around AMI. And that's exactly the point here, right? This doesn't have to be you're reinventing the nuclear reactor. It could be you have an interesting way to process data to surface important analysis on something to make better decisions, right? And I know that the tech community is aware of this, but I just want to be clear for those who aren't aware. This is a big industry where some areas of opportunity that have obvious solutions in other industries can actually be applied here and help to create equitable, efficient solutions in this industry. I think that's frankly, I think that's what Ralph is so desperate to see happen here. So anyway, I'm sorry to derail, Commissioner, but I'd love to hear your response also on innovative solutions you've seen in the industry.
Well, as Ralph said, the innovations are endless. I mean, frankly, I think the electric industry is just catching up to the telecom industry. You talk about Edison. If he came back a few years ago, it pretty much looked the way that it did. The poles and the wires going into the home. But now you have all these other different sources of generation, and in terms of distribution and technology, you have home energy reports going to the home, telling you how you're using your energy, so the individual has specific knowledge of how they're operating on the system. I think one of the other areas where we're going to see tremendous growth too is as you bring on a cleaner type of generation, we're going to have to see a change in the way our grid operates, and that's going to require a lot of innovation and contribution to figure out how we're going to work these new sources of generation into the system and accommodate them, and also, how it's going to affect load in the system overall. It's, people don't appreciate how complex the electric grid is. It's, the greatest invention of the 20th century. Well, I think we're going to be reimagining that grid as we move forward. And, our innovators are going to play a tremendous role in seeing that it operates efficiently.
Just a few more questions before we wrap up. One is around, again, can you share some insight into why it's so important? Again, I'm reminded now, I feel very privileged, one, to have power and connectivity, and also just to have a job. I mean, there's a lot of people obviously really struggling right now with the pandemic. Why is equity such an important part of the equation here as we think to the next decade of energy efficiency? Ralph, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, well, equity has multiple dimensions. Equity can apply to making sure that we do as much of our purchasing in New Jersey with minority and women-owned businesses. And we do. We have targets that we make sure we meet and exceed. Equity could have to do with employing folks who maybe are not our traditional employee population. Greater emphasis on minorities and women. For 100 years, the utility industry has been characterized by neither of those. But the biggest part of equity I want to focus on really is the customer equity. In the past, New Jersey and other states have emphasized energy efficiency programs through grants. And really, the primary users of these grants were people who could afford to make the investments, but were not interested enough to do so. And the grants were just interesting enough where they went ahead and did it. And that helped clean the air for everyone, and it was justified in that regard. But these are highly regressive programs. Sadly, you see this in our rooftop solar programs in New Jersey, where by and large, it's above average income folks who are doing this, and the state is subsidizing to the tune of over $600 million a year by all customers. So the beauty of what the BPU has done with their energy efficiency strawman by giving the utilities the primary, not the exclusive, but the primary role, is now we can direct the programs to those customers who need it the most and who would benefit the most from a reduced energy bill and who could least afford to do it on their own and in fact would never do it on their own. So I do think that equity comes in the form of really making sure that people have universal access to these improvements because right now they don't. We're kidding ourselves. And when somebody's refrigerator breaks down and they go to a store, the difference between the highly efficient refrigerator and the not so efficient refrigerator is enough to keep middle and lower income folks away from making that purchase. And unfortunately, the grant programs just go to subsidize the higher income folks who probably would have made that purchase anyway. I'm not sure they would have. And I'm grateful that they do because it does clean the air for all of us, as I said a moment ago. But I'd like to be able to help as many people as possible.
And Commissioner, I'd love your take on equity and the role of the energy industry. Yeah,
I can't agree more with what Ralph just said about the accessibility to these programs. And that's why on a national level, NARUC has partnered with the Department of Energy to, look at ways that we can more equitably reach individuals within communities across the country, and that we have a partnership with them so that regulators are made aware of how other programs are working nationally, so we can bring those efficiencies to our own communities. At the BPU, we just opened an Office of Clean Energy Equity that would be responsible for overseeing the equitable deployment of clean energy. And the subsidies have not always been the best mechanism to make sure that these programs are available to the greatest number of people. And I'm really looking forward to our new program rollout so that more individuals are able to take advantage of energy efficiency. And I think we will finally get to that goal with this filing and with these programs. And, it is the least cost solution available to most individuals that are available to the state, in the state. And we have to make sure that we make it more available to our community.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is this sort of a partnership, an unusual arrangement where an organization like TechUnited is able to try to surface innovative solutions and bring stakeholders like PSEG and the BPU to the table? Is that different than what you're seeing in other geographies, Commissioner?
No, actually, you have the throughout the country utilities working with their regulators. Different utilities are structured differently in terms of their relationships, how they offer programs. And, in some areas, the regulator regulates both the generation and the distribution. In New Jersey, we really, it's just the distribution side. So that makes it a little bit different in terms of what we're supporting and sponsoring. But by and large, it's a communal relationship, and I think work in tandem to bring things to the fore, especially in the tech area.
Yeah, I think I meant more so with the tech communities in particular, in looking to solicit ideas for solutions around some of these issues we've been talking about here.
Yeah, as I said, we don't solicit directly from the BPU, but we are made aware of what technologies are out there and what we are willing to allow our utilities to spend money on when they come to us with a filing. So we want to make capital available to the utilities so they can invest in some of these technologies. So that's the role that we play.
Last question I'm going to pose to both of you, which is, what would you imagine the world of energy looks like to a consumer in 100 years? Ralph, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be carbon free. I think it's going to be more distributed. And I think it's going to be so resilient that people will be amazed that, my gosh, you had outages in the past. And I do believe that the economy overall will be electrified. Transportation, household cooking, heating, industrial processes. And it'll be a combination of renewable supply, nuclear, and a much more efficient economy than one we have today.
That's a hopeful message. I hope we do get to that place. Commissioner, what do you believe the energy industry looks like in 100 years?
Yeah, I agree that it will probably be much more distributed in terms of what's available today, but I don't think we have any idea as to what it's going to be in the future. What we could have imagined, 10 years ago, and you look at today, you had, you go from hydraulic fracturing to, solar, hydrogen. Some people are talking about the backyard nuke.
That's a highly marketable.
I'm sorry.
A highly marketable name.
Yeah, right.
That's what I want in my backyard.
To take that, but I think predominantly it will be much more interactive. People are much more aware of their energy use, and I think interactive is another area that we'll really see a change.
Well, I hope that this community, and in particular that the startups that apply to this impact challenge, will be part of that 100-year future. If you haven't yet applied, go to TechUnited.co, check out the CleanTech Impact Challenge. Ralph and Dianne will see the top responses that come in. We have the judging coming up at Propelify, which this year is October 5th through 9th, but the applications are due by the end of August, so make sure you get them in. You could win $50,000 in cash, no strings attached, mentorship, press, and especially a potential big client and network in PSEG and others. So this is exactly the kind of thing I'd like to see happen around New Jersey in a variety of industries. This is a major step forward for the tech industry here. I hope that you'll apply if you haven't already. Often, or in the past, if this were in person, I would make the audience stand up and high five their neighbor because we've all been sitting down for a little while. And I know it's a little bit awkward since we're all remote here, but still, even if you're at home watching this, and especially, you don't have to stand up, but Ralph and Dianne, I do want to, before we go do a high five, you can high five the camera. I really appreciate you all joining us, the viewers today, especially Ralph and Commissioner, spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. I'm eager to see what we might be able to surface in the startup community in New Jersey to hopefully build this better future for all. So with that, on the count of three, we'll do our high five. I wish you both to have a fantastic rest of your week. And 1, 2, 3, boom.
I have a closing quote for you as well.
Oh, good. What do you got?
Yeah. Small opportunities are often the beginning of great enterprises. So for you out there, this was a small opportunity to engage in a great enterprise.
That's right. I like it. All right. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.